to be another wonderful broadcast week. And this evening, we have the founder of the Reconnection, Dr. Eric Perl, and he will be joining us right after the news break. So everybody stick with us. Paul, our news correspondent, is coming up right now. This is the Whole Agenda Radio Show. Stay tuned. We'll be back.
Good evening, everyone. This is Paul Landers with the Whole Agenda Radio Show with tonight's news. Update on the orcas, Anchorage, Alaska. Third orca whale that swam up Alaska's Nooskak River has spokesperson for National Marine Fisheries Service say the carcass of the third whale, which was a juvenile, was spotted Friday near Grass Island. Juvenile and two female orcas, pregnant one, were spotted in fresh water more than 3 weeks ago. Cropsies last week on the other two provided obvious reasons for why they died. Spiegel says nothing is decided regarding cropsy or tissue samples from the juvenile as to whether they'll do one or not. More than a dozen passerbys, a 2-year-old girl, as she lay injured on a street in southern China after twice. The incident has sparked outrage in China's hugely popular social media sites. Surveillance cameras showed a series of people walking past the girl after she was hit first by a van truck outside her family's shop. One passerby finally came to the girl's aid, to the curb and shouting for help, but was ignored by shoppers. Finally tracked down her mother, who took her to the hospital. In response, one wrote, "This society is seriously ill. Cats and dogs shouldn't be so heartily." Really, what is up with our society? I saw this and my heart went. Everyone needs to do some soul searching and this kind of indifference. China's economic boom and the growing disparity, rich and poor, have made changing social values a contentious topic, some emanating what they see as some morals. But others link the incident to an earlier case in which a man tried to help an elderly woman. She fell over, was prosecuted, apparently because his intervention government rules on dealing with accidents. Many people in China are hesitant, stressed for fear they will be. High-profile lawsuits have ended Good Samaritans. They have fines to individuals they sought help. Doctors say the young girl is in a coma and unlikely she would be able to survive any operations. She's very close to brain death. For the hospital treating. Police have detained drivers of incident. Harold Camping. Harold Camping. That Judgment Day would occur in May doesn't seem to have panned out. Isn't giving up hope. The world is close. In fact, he said it's going to arrive on Friday. The evangelical broadcaster and some of his faithful followers now say that on October 21st, with the faithful leaving sinners behind on earth to face the apocalypse. Camping's followers are saying the same. Nothing's changed. Margaret Pease, who is one of the 10 volunteers in Caravan 1, which is a squadron of RVs, radio goes out and spreads this doomsday message. Fred Storer, the leader, continues to attend a Bible study session. He said that 3 members of the team are living in his house in Sacramento. We're just kind of keeping things together, she said. People traveling in this direction from the East Coast. Asked whether he was continuing to distribute doomsday literature to warn the world, he said, "No, we haven't handed out any literature since first. There's no reason to. Judgment Day is over." Not everyone is still on board, though, including some who paid the price for their belief. Spring, they gave up jobs and assets to prepare for a future without worldly needs and responsibilities. Dave LaCora, 45, sold his house and possessions and lived for more than 8 months on a family radio-sponsored RV, feels he has already moved on. He still listens to family radio, he says, does not that a physical rapture will. I'm looking at these events as spiritual. There seems to be an agglomeration of bad news in the world over the past several years. It's just sort of trend that gives rise to end time. Unlikely, though, Camp's latest predictions may be, she said, it does seem like the number of what feel like cataclysmic shifts that are taking place in our world can. Louisville, Kentucky. Authorities say a couple shopped with a cell phone and makeup at Walmart, but forgot the two children as they fled the store. Police in Louisville say Mike desktop cell phone and tried to take a tablet, destroying the attached process. Police say 19-year-old Kelsey Bobmeyer hid makeup a seat. Confronted a man getting their year-old and their 18-month. Police say they returned to the store about an hour later to get the children, who were already arrested. She and Kaufman arrested. Kaufman and Grovemeyer are each charged with theft, trespassing, endangering the welfare of a minor, and tampering with physical evidence. And then finally, a little thought, suggestion for today. Waste your time worrying. It is a misuse of your imagination. Well, that's it for me tonight. This has been Paul Landers for the Whole Agenda Radio Show. Robert was tonight's special guest. Thank you and good night.
And it's wonderful to be back here today on October 17th. And tonight we have a wonderful guest. He is Dr. Perl. He is the founder and creator of the Reconnection. Internationally recognized healer, Dr. Eric Perl, has appeared on countless programs in the U.S. and around the world. Spoken by a patient at the United Nations, presented to a full house of Madison Square Garden, been interviewed in various publications, including the New York Times, and most recently featured in the film Living Matrix. This Dr. Eric, highly successful practice for 12 years until one day his patients began reporting that they felt his hands on them. Even though he hadn't physically touched them, patients soon reported receiving miraculous healings, age-related diseases, epilepsy, chronic fatigue syndrome, rheumatoid, and arthritis, and diseases, cerebral palsy, and more, and other serious afflictions. All this occurred when Dr. Eric simply put his hands near them. To this day, it continues. His patients' healings have been documented in 6 books to date, including Eric's own international bestseller, Reconnection, Heal Others, Heal Yourself, now in more than 36 languages. Dr. Eric Perl, thank you so much for being with us, and welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Well, you are quite an incredible man, and I have been reading your book, and I am extremely impressed. Of course, we had Doug DeVito on Friday evening, which he works with you as a in the Reconnection, And it is quite incredible when I started reading your book, the beginning of it with your mother lying on the physician's table as she was giving birth to you. That was quite remarkable how this all came about.
How she died and came back to life, you mean, during that experience?
Correct.
Well, a lot of people like to attribute the healings coming through to that experience, which, may or may not, play a role in it, but it most likely does. I mean, it's not very many people who were still inside their mother when she died and had this life after death experience and came back to life. So obviously, if I was still attached at the umbilical cord, part of this experience must have been mine as well.
I would have to assume it was. But I mean, I don't know, but I'm sure your mother, recollection of everything happened, or do you actually remember any of this?
I don't remember it.
Being born.
I don't have conscious recollection of it. My mother told me about it somewhere when I was maybe somewhere between about 5 and 7. And the second chapter of the book is all about that, which was the most difficult chapter for me to write because I had to spend a lot of time really focusing in on trying to find just the right words, and even she would say that it's hard to find the right words for these things because she doesn't have them either. I mean, I could explain a little bit about the experience if you'd like.
Absolutely, Doctor.
Sure. Well, call me Eric, please. Dr. Perl sounds like somebody's father.
Okay, Eric. We'll do that. It's habit. Sorry.
Cool. So what happened was that during the delivery process, my mother was lying on the table, and she started recognizing that she was dying, and she, of course, did not want to die, and she was trying to get the attention of the doctors around her, but no one seemed to notice or pay attention to it, and she struggled as best as possible to not die, and yet suddenly she found that she had left her body, that she was passing through levels or layers of beings or souls. It seems to be the closest word we have, although it's not exactly the correct word. People who had died. And the first level that she passed through were those who were still not fully aware that they had died, not fully aware that they had passed on, and or felt that they had unfinished work here with family or loved ones or others. The second level, she doesn't recall exactly what that was. The third one was the only one that was uncomfortable. And on that level, these souls or spirits were sort of in a state of limbo. They had done the only thing that you could do to, she didn't like to use the word cheat, but to temporarily or to interrupt God's plan, and that was to take their own lives. Although she's not sure that they continued on, she feels quite comfortable that they did eventually continue on beyond that. And then she passed through other levels, and she eventually found herself drifting down a lane, not exactly walking. Her feet weren't moving, but somehow she was coming down a lane, passing beautiful flowers she had never seen before, with fragrances she had never smelled before, with colors never before experienced here on this planet. And she thinks that that's what a lot of people refer to as the tunnel that they're moving through. There was a very, very, very bright light that she was getting closer and closer to. It was so bright, as a matter of fact, that she didn't really quite want to open her eyes and look at it. She was afraid that it would hurt her, but she did find that she looked, and it didn't hurt her eyes, and she suddenly became more aware of the fact that there was nothing physical of her to hurt. She, as she continued down, she saw people that she'd known from different lifetimes, different roles that they played in different lifetimes, and she knew with one look, one glance, you could understand volumes, you could see people for who they were, even though there was nothing physical, you just could recognize who they were as their very essence. And as she continued getting closer and closer to that light, she was finally, when she arrived there, her life was laid out before her, and she could see that it was a good life, and yet there was no judgment, which sort of sounds contradictory to know that something's good without judgment. But she said, you'll understand when it happens to you. And she was suddenly imbued with the secrets of the universe, why the grass was green, why the sky is blue, why the earth is round, how war is a temporary state of barbarism that we will eventually pass through, how utterly ridiculous and wasteful it is for young men and women to go out losing their lives fighting the battles of older men and women. She knew that there was nothing that we could blame God for, even things seemingly as senseless and horrible as drive-by shootings of children and other things, because once you're there, that you recognize that there truly is a reason for everything, and everything makes perfect sense to you when you're in that space. And for all the wonderful insights and experiences she had there, she suddenly found herself being sent back. And now for all the struggling she did not to die in the first place, now she didn't want to go back, but she was told she had to go back to raise her son, and she was realized that she was programmed to forget all of these insights, because we're not supposed to have these insights here. We're supposed to go through the learning process of discovery of them while we're here. But she struggled to hold on to these few and came back and suddenly came to a little bit as she was being wheeled into the recovery room. My father was walking alongside of her, and she said, I now know the secrets of the universe, and I'm intended to forget them, so I'm going to tell them to you so that you will write them down. And he didn't. So we can say that the beginning of my relationship with my father felt as if I were deprived of the secrets of the universe by him. But in all honesty, we have to realize that that was exactly what was supposed to happen, because I was supposed to be looking for these answers myself.
Eric, absolutely with you, and I definitely believe in reincarnation. I know it actually, personally speaking, and I've had out-of-body experiences, so I definitely relate to your mother's story. And I don't know, have you ever had an out-of-body experience yourself?
Very minimally, very briefly. Not enough to be able to tell a long story of. As a matter of fact, just as I was in the state of awe of experiencing it, the phone rang and jerked me right back out of it. And I am not very happy about that. I've tried to re-enter it, and I've never been able to.
Something similar. It was happening. Eyes were open. I was awake, and it sounded like a jet plane was taking off. And I opened my eyes, and I looked down at my body. My whole body was shaking and vibrating. But when I looked at my hands and my torso and my legs, it was perfectly calm. And I got so scared. And the moment I got scared, I totally understand that.
Yeah. And I can't wait to have that experience again. Hopefully while I'm still alive. I will tell you that my concerns at the time when I was that young, my thoughts of death were that, what happens when you end up being in a box and buried deep in the ground, and, that my picture of it had my awareness in that box, and I wasn't happy with it. But after understanding this, I guess you could say whatever my concerns, I don't want to say I had a fear of death, although maybe I did, I don't know. But it's gone now. As a matter of fact, I look forward to that experience, not to be confused with that I want to shorten my life to get there sooner. I don't. But when I am there, I am looking forward to truly enjoying that experience.
Eric, I couldn't agree with you more. I certainly view it the same way. Now, how did the reconnection start?
Well, do you want the short form, the long form, the intermediate form?
we have plenty of time. We got 10 minutes, about 8 minutes to break, so get started at least.
I'll start some of it. I was, let me see. I was practicing as a chiropractor. In my 12th year in practice, somewhere a few interesting turns came up in my life, including that I ended a relationship which I thought was going to be the relationship of my lifetime. I was sufficiently shaken by the breakup that I truly had difficulty placing one foot in front of the other just to walk from room to room, from patient to patient in my practice. At the same time, there were some problems going on with the office staff, and I really didn't have the wherewithal emotionally to want to deal with them on top of everything else. So I did what practice management programs tell you to do, but trust me, you haven't lived until you've done this one yourself, was I let everyone go at the same time. So there I was, answering the phones, adjusting the patients, filling out the insurance forms, making the schedules, making change for people, answering questions, stamping the envelopes, and running after the postman. This lasted for approximately an hour. I knew that I had to get new staff in. I knew I had to get them in quickly. And so I decided to hire a professional team of people who help you hire. And so we scheduled all the interviewees to come in on one day. I opened my home for the interviews, and in the morning, the moment I opened the door, in they came. Young, old, tall, short, experienced, inexperienced, and finally came in this woman who was both the physical and audible incarnation of Fran Drescher's character, the nanny. Immediately, everyone huddled behind me and said, whatever you do, don't hire this one, and I had to have her. I mean, it was an instant love. It was an instant fascination. I brought her into the office, and it was a love-hate relationship. I loved her. What I didn't realize was that the patients hated her, that she was doing not-so-charming little things when I wasn't looking, such as borrowing money from them and other practice builders. But you don't know why someone comes into your life when they come into your life. You just know that they come in to take you on that roller coaster ride, and we went on one, starting from somewhere within the first week or two where she said to me, Dr. Perl, you've been under so much stress lately that you need to take a day off and go to the beach, which translated into, I want to take a day off and go to the beach, and I don't want to spend my own money on gasoline, but I took her anyway. We went to the beach, and while we're there, she wanders off for a while. She wanders back. She said, I found this woman reading cards. You need to get your cards read by her. And I thought, well, I don't really have a problem with getting my cards read, maybe, but I'd like to go to someone who comes with a good, solid recommendation. My brother went, sister went. They said this would happen in 10 days, and it did. Not some woman on the beach trying to flag other people down, on their otherwise way to a good time while she sits behind a card table, folding chairs. But this woman who worked for me just pushed and pushed and pushed and droned on with that nanny voice until it was easier just to say, okay. So I wandered over to the woman reading cards. The woman explained she had $10 readings and $20 readings. I said, I'll take a $10 reading, which is precisely what I received, a $10 reading. Nothing that stood out, nothing special, nothing of any seeming import, except at the very end when she said to me, well, you see, being a healer, which I interpreted as her saying, being a chiropractor, there's this work that she did that she felt that I could benefit from. So I listened. And she said, you see, the meridian lines on our bodies that are used by acupuncturists and acupressurists used to be part of a much more comprehensive system than it is today. These lines used to extend off of our bodies and tie into the grid lines that encircle the planet and then continue out, tying us into the other stars and planets and the spaces in between. And that at a certain point in time, we became disconnected from that system. So the universe continued to unfold at its great and wondrous rate. We continued our evolution, but not so much at that speed at the time. But enough time had gone on where we have evolved to a point where we could gradually start to reintegrate to that system over generations to come. She, however, told me that she was able to do a work that would be like putting us onto a super high drive DSL and just tie us right back instantly to that system. And I thought, well, that sounds interesting. How much do you want for the work? And she said $333. And I said, no, thank you, because I could think of a lot of things to do with $333, and giving them some card reader on the beach wasn't on my list. I mean, I could already envision my picture on the news, film at 11, chiropractors suckered into gypsy fortune-telling scheme. So I thanked her very much. I got up, started to leave, and she scribbled something down on a piece of paper and said, here, you can read about this in a book called The Book of Knowledge, The Keys of Enoch, Chapter 317. It's only 8 little pages. So tell me, Robert, have you ever seen that book?
Actually, no, I haven't.
Okay. Well, I hadn't either, and I had no intention of ever looking at that book. But I kept thinking about it and thinking about it and thinking about it, and finally I took an extra 10 minutes off from lunch one day to go into the Bodhi Tree bookstore in the West Hollywood area and figure I would quickly skim through those 8 little pages. But for everyone who has seen that book, they can attest that there are 3 things you cannot do with it. You cannot quickly skim through it, you cannot read it, and you cannot understand it. Now, outside of that, it's a great book. The more I read, the more confused I became. The more confused I became, the more intrigued I became. I left, I went back. I left, I went back. I understood parts I didn't understand the first time. I didn't understand parts I did understand the first time. Finally, I decided with all the back and forth and all the efforts that I'd been expending that it would probably just be cheaper if I paid a woman $333 and made the appointment. So, shall I continue there, or is this the time that you're looking to take a break?
No, this is absolutely fascinating, Eric. It's quite incredible. I mean, to know and understand the experience you've gone through, and so sitting here on the other side and on the mic listening to you, it's quite incredible. Got to break just, but spending that $333, assuming it led you to some serious enlightenments, reconnection. So I'm assuming that everything at that psychic, that really things truly started to unfold for you.
This was
Am I
the
correct?
key. This was the key that opened the door that started the path. I showed up at her house on a Thursday. She explained this was done on 2 days, so I booked a Thursday and a Sunday. She put on the New Age tinkly music we've all grown to know and love, as I say sarcastically, and dimmed the lights and took her fingertips and started tracing little line patterns over my face and my arms and my body, all the while I was lying there. I cannot believe that I paid this woman money to be drawing lines on my body with her fingertips, and my mind went on and on and on. Go ahead, take your break. I'll come back.
Okay, Eric, thank you very much. I apologize. But everybody stick with us. You listen to Dr. Eric Perl, an incredible man who has founded the Reconnection and has healed a lot of people. And I think it would behoove everybody to listen and to purchase Dr. Eric Perl's book. You're going to find the rest of the show incredible. To what he has to say. Everybody stick with us. This is the Whole Agenda Radio Show. I'm your host, Robert Pepino. We'll be right back after this break.
Concerned about the cost of quality water purification? BerkeyWater.com. Concerned about microorganisms in your water? BerkeyWater.com. Concerned about known chemicals in your water? BerkeyWater.com. Want information about water in the news? BerkeyWater.com. That's BerkeyWater.com. Call 888-803-4438.
It's 888-803-4438.
Berkey. The water you drink cannot be as think.
Regardless of the dollar price involved, 1 ounce of gold would purchase a good quality man's suit at the conclusion of the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, presidency of Franklin Roosevelt, and today. You may not be in the market for a suit, but you don't know what the future may bring. Gold is the one financial constant the world has ever known. It can always provide you with your basic needs. Whether you're looking for junk silver, old silver dollar rolls, gold bullion, or fractional tradable gold pieces, Kettle Moraine is your full-service representative with over 50 years of knowledge and personal experience. Visit FlyingEagleGold.com or call us at 623-327-1778 today for competitive prices on all your gold or silver needs. If you're looking for real financial insurance, call Kettle Moraine today at 623-327-1778. That's Kettle Moraine, 623-327-1778.
Hi, I'm Ronnie McMullen, spokesman for Life Change Tea. I want to share my enthusiasm for Life Change Tea because this product really works. I have spent many hours listening to hundreds of testimonies from people like you having their health be transformed because of this amazing product. When your mind makes the decision for a health change, Life Change Tea will help you to achieve your health. Reduce your weight, diminish bad bacteria, receive more energy, cleanse your skin, eliminate toxins, give health and energy to your vital organs. If you want to make a change in your health plan, call now. Call right now. 928-308-0408. Again, 928-308-0408. Or you can log on to the website at getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Make up your mind and choose the right path. That's getthetea.com.
Rise and answer my question. Oh, crap.
Yeah, it's a little dark in here, ain't it, Clink, now that you've busted the light?
Where are you?
Right in front of you.
Yes. Now, where have you hidden the wax figurine of the Kaiser?
I've got no bloody idea what you did with your Vax figurine, and I don't care.
You are the prisoner.
That's right, and as such, I expect some answers out of you. Now, where did you put my stash of freeze-dried food?
We, ate it.
You ate it?
It was quite good.
I'm sure it was. I'll have you know that was freeze-dried food from the freeze-dry guy. That food rehydrates faster, stores longer, is nutritionally superior to, and tastes better than any other long-term storage food available. Now, let me out of here.
If you could get us some more, perhaps we could negotiate.
Yeah, perhaps I'll just confiscate your keys, Klaus, and let myself out the front door.
But wait.
I'm busy. Get your own supply of delicious long-term storable food by dialing 866-404-3663 or visit freezedryguy.com.
The Micro Effect Broadcasting Network.
Right now.
The Micro Effect.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Whole Agenda Radio Show. I'm your host, Robert Pino, and we have been talking with Dr. Eric Perl of the Reconnection. He is the founder. We were just getting into how Dr. Was coming into understanding, learning Reconnection. Eric, please take it away.
Sure. So what happened is while I was lying there on the table and she was drawing these little line patterns in my body and my face with her fingertips, I was lying there thinking, I cannot believe I paid this woman $333 to be doing this. But then something else inside of me said, well, you did already pay her the money, so maybe you ought to let go of all negative chatter and see what there is to experience. So with that, I drifted off into the experience for the next 45 or 60 minutes, give or take. At the end, she told me to keep my eyes closed, but to gently sit up and hold on to the table. It was as if the earth had moved, except she was the only one of the two of us who noticed. Slide to the edge of the table, take my feet, feel for the ground, and I'm thinking, isn't the ground where I left it? But, there she took me through this whole dance about getting back to your body while I experienced absolutely nothing whatsoever. Anyway, I politely thanked her very much, said goodbye, and left, thinking that there was absolutely nothing more ridiculous I could possibly do except to have agreed to come back for Sunday for part 2. So I get home and go through my normal routine for that night and get into bed and go to sleep. But about an hour later, this bright light bursting through my eyes, awakening me. I opened my eyes to see what it was, and it wasn't anything seemingly spiritual or metaphysical. It was just the lamp next to my bed had decided to turn itself on. I had had that lamp for a good 10 years. It hadn't selected any other propitious occasion to self-ignite, but just the same, there it was. And at the same time, It felt very strongly and very clearly as if somebody was in my home. Let's just say I got up with a knife, a can of pepper spray, and my Doberman pinscher, and I went hunting through the house. I couldn't find anyone. I finally decided that it has to be my imagination, and I went back to sleep. Now, on that next day was a Friday, was a normal work day. That Saturday was a normal Saturday. Sunday I go back to the woman for part 2. She places me on the same massage table, dims the lights, puts on the New Age tinkly music again, and starts tracing the little line patterns over my body with her fingertips once more. Except this time, it was quite different. First of all, I couldn't seem to lie still. My body wanted to shake. It wanted to move. I didn't know quite what to do with myself. By the time she finished with me, and mind you, this was an practically hot August day in Venice Beach, California. I'm in this woman's tiny little one-bedroom, non-air-conditioned apartment, and yet when she finished with me, I was so chilled. She had to wrap me in a blanket for a good 5 minutes. I believe my teeth even started to chatter a little bit. Now this time I realized I had experienced something quite different. I experienced a peace, a sense of peace, which on one hand I had never known, and on the other hand was more familiar than anything before I had experienced. I remember getting into my car to drive home, sitting behind the steering wheel, starting up the ignition, hitting the accelerator, starting to slowly drive the car. It drove so slowly for some reason. And then I don't remember anything else. I don't remember driving all the way home. I don't remember getting to my house, going upstairs, going to sleep. I don't remember getting up in the morning. I don't remember going to work the next morning. It's as if my brain had been removed and suddenly replaced, or the feeling, I guess, would be as if you had just come out of anesthesia and you wake up to the world that's going on around you, but you don't quite know where you are or how you got there. And there I was, standing in the hallway in my office, facing 2 of my employees who were looking at me and saying, "What happened to you over the weekend? You look so different. You sound so different." And I didn't really want to say, well, gee, I paid some very charming Jewish gypsy who called me Bubba at $333 to draw lines on my body with her fingertips. Why do you ask? So I sort of didn't say anything. And I went into the room to work on my, when I used to tell a story, I would say to work on my first patient. I now realize it's the first patient I'm aware of. I don't even know if it was my first patient of that day. But I went in to work on that next patient. And I adjusted him and told him to, close his eyes and relax for a minute or so after the adjustment, as I always did, so the adjustment would settle into place. And when he opened his eyes, he looked at me and he said, "Who walked into the room while I was lying here?" And I said, "No one." "Why?" He said, "The person who was standing at the door." I said, "No one was standing at the door." He said, "I heard them there." I said, "They weren't there." He said, "I felt them there." They weren't there. So we went back and forth, and finally he said, "Okay." But I could tell he didn't really quite believe. I didn't pay it much mind yet. I went in to work on my second patient, and when she opened her eyes, she said, "Who was standing at the door?" I said, "No one." "Why?" She said, "I felt someone there." I said, "No one was there." She said, "I heard them." I said, "They weren't there." We went back and forth. Well, let's just say that this is my 12th year in practice. No one had ever said anything like that to me before. And here on this one day, 7 patients, independently of one another, insist that they felt someone in the room with us, standing, walking, running. 2 of them actually looked me straight in the eye and said, "I felt as if somebody was flying around the ceiling." Just the way I had felt people in my home, on that Thursday prior. Now,
well,
7...
I'm sorry.
Oh, my God.
Oh,
hold on.
Okay.
I'm going to go into another room because I think the incense that I lit... Yeah?
Uh-oh, are you okay?
Well, that doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't.
I have no idea. But let me get into another room and see if I can avoid this sound.
Okay.
Well, it stopped.
Oh, that was bizarre. I was just getting ready to ask you. That was so bizarre. I was going to say, you must have been really shocked when your patients were telling you this. Oh, that was so strange.
Oh, my goodness. I know. Well, let me see. It seems to have stopped. That's a good thing. Uh-oh. But what's not a good thing is I've locked myself out of that room.
Oh, no.
So, that's all right. I've got battery in the phone. We're good. So anyway, strange electrical occurrences seem to go on at the seminars, but I haven't told this story for a long time, and I've forgotten that these things happen when I just put a story. Anyway, where were we?
You were just, your 7 patients had told you that,
right, that they had felt people in the room just the way I had felt people at my house that Thursday prior. Anyhow, in the interim, other patients are saying to me, I can feel your hands before you touch me. And of course I don't believe them. And I'm saying, oh, sure you can. Lie down and close your eyes. So they closed their eyes. And I would hold my hands in different directions, anywhere from several feet to several yards away from them, aimed in different angles. And they could tell me right shoulder, left ankle. So it became part of a game because, well, it was my office and I could have whatever games I wanted, I guess. And as I was doing that, I would see tiny, tiny, tiny little muscles in their forehead and around their chin begin to move, pulling at their lips and their eyebrows, little muscles that we couldn't move independently or intentionally, I should say. And then I'd see their eyes rapidly dart back and forth and their lips start to move and then their fingers and then their feet. And when they'd open their eyes, they were telling me that they were seeing colors and lights they'd never seen before and smelling flowers they'd never before smelled. And then they started reporting healings, real healings. They were getting up out of wheelchairs, some of them, and vision and hearing returning. And patients were coming in days later showing me laboratory results where their cancer tumors had vanished. Parents were calling and asking what I did because the children with cerebral palsy and epilepsy were able to walk and run and play and speak normally and weren't having seizures any longer or requiring their medications. Their doctors were calling and saying, what did you do? And I said, nothing, I didn't do anything, and don't tell anybody, which went over about as big as Nancy Reagan trying to just say no to drugs. So soon people started coming in from everywhere going, I'll have what she had. And the next thing we know, people are calling and saying, teach this. And I said, teach it? You got to be crazy. It didn't come with an instruction manual. I'm standing there waving my hands in the air looking like an idiot. So go outside, wave your hands in the air, let me know what your neighbors say. But more and more, my patients would call and say, when I drove home from your office, I pulled up in front of my house, and the automatic garage door opened before I could hit the little button in the car to open it, or I walked inside and the lamp of the TV started turning itself on and off and on and off, and I felt sensations in my hands. I would hold my hands near someone in my family, and my grandfather could walk again after the stroke, or my uncle was able to speak again, and we found that once we interact with this new bandwidth of healing frequencies, something takes place and we become changed. And we're able to, once we learn how to access and utilize this, but to facilitate healings for others and at the same time ourselves to receive our own healings. So that's the beginning of the story before it becomes strange.
Okay, so now I really want to hear about the strange because this is really getting fascinating now.
Yeah? Okay, here we go. So as I'm working on patients, unusual things are occurring. My palms blister a couple of times. My palm bleeds, not like a stigmata or anything, but more as if you accidentally stuck it with a pin or needle, that little tiny drop of blood that comes out. And the next thing we know, a patient of mine comes in who hadn't been in for half a year. So in other words, when he left half a year prior, these healings weren't going on. When he came back, the healings had started. I didn't say anything about them to anyone because I was really just quietly observing as they were occurring. I gave him an adjustment. Then I told him to close his eyes and relax like a my other patients, and as I held my hands near him, what happened was suddenly his head jerked back, his eyes rolled to the back of his skull, his mouth opened, his tongue began to move in a fashion that you could see was clearly forming vowels, and air began to audibly escape through his mouth in a way that you could tell that it was speaking, but you couldn't really hear words. And as I would move my hands in different ways, the sounds seemed to get louder or softer, correlating to what I was doing with my hands. And I was fascinated observing this for a while, and yet I at a certain point realized I had to stop because all my other patients were in the other rooms waiting for me. And so I touched him lightly, and I said, "Fred, I think we're finished." And he opened his eyes, and he looked at me, and I looked at him, and he didn't say anything, so I didn't say anything. I mean, what am I going to say? Hey, Fred, what's the performance, So I sort of let it go. He came back in later that week. What?
I was going to say, you told him what happened. He must have been shocked. One point.
I didn't tell him what happened. I thought, how could he not know what happened? I didn't say anything. He didn't say anything. But he came back in later that week for his next visit, and I was sure it was going to happen again. And it did. Head jerked, eyes rolled, mouth opened, tongue moved, air came out. But this time the air condensed itself into his voice. And the voice said, "We are here to tell you to continue doing what you are doing. What you are doing is bringing light and information onto the planet." Then he said a few other things, and then all my patients were waiting for me again. So this time I touched him once again, and I said his name. I said, "Fred." And Fred opened his eyes, and he jumped up off the table, physically blocking the wall phone because he thought I was going to call the mental hospital and have him taken away. So he explained to me that he had this voice coming through him since he was a young child, around 11 or so, and that only 2 people in his life knew about it. And he didn't want anyone to know, and he sort of felt something starting last time, but he thought I didn't notice anything. Anyhow, like you could miss it, right? So, anyhow, I thought, all right, well, then this is just something kind of unique to Fred. It's a Fred thing, and I just let it go at that. But 2 days later, it happened to 3 other patients. Their head jerked, their eyes rolled, mouth open, tongue moved, air came out, and I was not going to sit around and wait for a double-blind controlled scientific study. I was sure that on their next visit, they were going to speak something. They were going to have words come out, too. So I started making phone calls to famous people all around North America, seeing if anyone had ever experienced anything like this. And no one really had, but finally, I got directed to this French woman in Beverly Hills who was supposed to have all the answers to these things. So I called her up. I told her what was going on. She said to come over, and I was under the impression that I would simply let her feel the sensations in her hands. She'd explain what it was, and I could go on with my life, but that wasn't exactly what she had in mind. Instead, what she did was she sat me down on the sofa, placed a quartz crystal in each of my hands, and that was the end of normal. Now, I tell you right now, I would have left, except that was one of the, maybe 2 times in my whole life pretty much I can think of, that I had lent someone my car, so they had dropped me off and driven off. I had no way home. So I sat there holding these 2 pieces of quartz crystal. She brought out this giant piece of poster board with a huge star on it. Each section of the star was filled in with intense, bright, different colors. And just in case that wasn't enough, she had cut out photographs of eyes and glued it all over the thing for effect. She told me to look at the stars, study the colors in the stars, and close my eyes. And now visualize the blue that was in the star. Everything's blue. Well, I don't know about you, but when I close my eyes, the only color I sort of see is a charcoal brown, So I, visualize the blue. Charcoal. Visualize green. Charcoal. Yellow, red, purple. Charcoal, charcoal, charcoal. And finally, she goes, now visualize gold. Everything's gold. Golden sky, golden ground, golden mountain, golden waterfall. And under the golden waterfall, feel the waterfall falling on you. I'm thinking, am I ever going to live through this boring thing of New Age who knows what? She goes, now, look up in the sky and I want you to visualize this giant golden eye. You're going to ask the eye questions. And that was it. I opened my eyes, I looked at her, and I said, and how's it going to answer me? It's an eye. Well, she said, I mean, really, she said, don't worry, I'll tell you what to ask, which didn't address my concern at all, but, there I was, dropped off. So I closed my eyes again. She goes, ask the eye how many strands of DNA you have. So I opened my eyes and looked at her again. I said, I know how many strands of DNA I have. I'm a doctor. There's one strand of RNA, 2 strands of DNA. I explained the double helix, the whole thing to her. She said, now close your eyes and ask the eye. So I'm sitting there with my eyes closed, trying to picture this eye that I cannot see, to ask it a question that it cannot answer because it's an eye, not a mouth. The answer to which is 2. This woman wants to hear something else. How can I leave without being terribly rude? And when I get downstairs, I don't have my car. And as all of this is going through my mind, my mouth suddenly opened and said, I have 3. There are 12 strands of DNA. 12. And I'm thinking, where is this coming from? No one told me this was a 2-part question. I had no idea why I answered it that way. So without skipping a beat, she goes, oh, you're a Pleiadian. I went, oh, what's a Pleiadian? So she explained that the Pleiades is a system of 7 stars, which I later checked out on the astronomy charts, and that was accurate. But her story was that supposedly the Pleiadians, the people living there, used to also live here on the planet Earth, and Earth at that time was a way station for travelers moving throughout the universe, and they would stop here for rest and relaxation and other wonderful learning, knowledge experience or something. I don't remember the whole thing because while she's explaining the story in my mind, I'm imagining myself on the phone calling my parents, hello, Mom, Dad, I'm a Martian. But anyway, she sent me off to get a book to read about the story she was telling me, and I read it and said that supposedly what happened, the Pleiadians who were running the planet split into 2 groups. One group wanted to take over control from the other group, and in order to do so, they found a way for their scientists to disconnect 10 of our original 12 strands of DNA. Those of us who are back on Earth today, supposedly to bring light and information, have our 3rd strand of DNA. And I'm thinking, holy, you know what? This stuff came out of my mouth. I go back to my office the next day, and those 3 other patients whose heads jerked and eyes rolled and mouth open and tongue moved and air came out did the same thing again. And what did they say? They said the first 2 phrases that Fred said. They said, we are here to tell you to continue doing what you were doing. What you were doing is bringing light and information onto the planet. Then 2 of them added, what you're doing is reconnecting strands. One of them said, what you're doing is reconnecting strings. Fred came back later that week and said, what you're doing is reconnecting strings. And a few days later, it happened to 5 other patients. All in all, over that 3-month period, starting that January, running until about the middle of April, over 50 different patients, 50 different patients, lost consciousness and spoke 6 word-for-word phrases. And then they stopped. Now, for all the weirdness around them speaking and doing these things, when it stopped, now I thought I had done something wrong, because first there's all this information, I'm waiting for the information, then they stopped talking. But I recognized today that these 50 different people were turned into living radio broadcast systems so that I would pay attention to what they were saying. And as I look at these phrases, we begin to get insights and understandings into this work. Do you like where we're going so far?
Oh, absolutely. And I was just going to add that we are bioelectrochemical components, more or less.
Right. You see, the body doesn't heal the way that we were taught in medical schools and such. The body does not heal through the chemical model or the biochemical model that we used to be taught. We now recognize that as pretty much dead and obsolete. What we recognize is the body heals through frequency, vibration, resonance, information exchange, entrainment, energy, and light. And And we also recognize that the brain doesn't work the way that we were taught. We used to remember those models of the brains where they used to draw the circles in different areas. Say speech is here, memory is here, and learning is here, and this is there, and that's there. We now know from the work of Dr. Carl Pribram and Carl Lashley and others that this information is diffused throughout the brain. It's not sitting in little circumscribed little areas. And we also access it from the field, what today is referred to as zero-point field. I talk about it as the field that refused to die because it used to be called the etheric field. And in the late 1800s, science was just horrified that seemingly otherwise intelligent adults were believing in this invisible field. So science did what science does best. It disproved it. The only problem was that the field wasn't intelligent enough to recognize it had been disproven. So the suckers showed back up again in the early 1900s. Science remobilized and disproved it a second time, and it came around again, and so strongly that today science uses it and calls it zero-point field. Now, we are not just in this field. This field is within us, and this is the field of information that we were always in tune with. I mean, we see it in our everyday lives. If you put a bunch of kids on a camp bus during the summer and one child falls asleep, another child stares at them until they wake up. They're playing in the field. You think about a friend you haven't thought about for 5 years, and 5 minutes later the phone rings. You're in the field. So people who are geniuses, people who are psychics, people who are healers, it's nothing all that secret or special. All they're doing is listening a little more up here, a little more over there to the field and not second-guessing the information as it comes in.
Eric, can we hold it right there? We're coming up on a break. This
Sure.
is incredibly fascinating. Everybody, stick with us. This is the Whole Agenda Radio Show. You are listening to Dr. Eric Perl of the Reconnection, and we're finding out how everything does reconnect and how it is so simple to heal ourselves and other people. Stick with us. I'm your host, Robert Pino. We'll be right back after this break.
Regardless of the dollar price involved, 1 ounce of gold would purchase a good quality man's suit at the conclusion of the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, the presidency of Franklin Roosevelt, and today. You may not be in the market for a new suit, but you don't know what the future may bring. And gold is the one financial constant the world has ever known. It can always provide you with your basic needs. Whether you're looking for junk silver, old silver dollar rolls, gold bullion, or fractional tradable gold pieces, Kettle Moraine is your full-service representative with over 50 years of knowledge and personal experience. Visit FlyingEagleGold.com or call us at 623-327-1778 today for competitive prices on all your gold or silver needs. If you're looking for real financial insurance, call Kettle Moraine today at 623-327-1778. That's Kettle Moraine, 623-327-1778.
I'm Ronnie McMullen, spokesman for Life Change Tea. I want to share my enthusiasm for Life Change Tea because this product really works. I have spent many hours listening to hundreds of testimonies from people like you having their health be transformed because of this amazing product. When your mind makes the decision for a health change, Life Change Tea will help you to achieve your health goal. Reduce your weight, diminish bad bacteria, receive more energy, cleanse your skin, eliminate toxins, give health and energy to your vital organs. If you want to make a change in your health plan, call now. Call right now. 928-308-0408. Again, 928-308-0408. Or you can log on to the website at getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Make up your mind and choose the right path. That's getthetea.com.
Prisoner, rise and answer my question. Oh, crap.
Yeah, it's a little dark in here, ain't it, Clink, now that you've busted the light?
Where are you?
Right in front of you.
Yes. Now, where have you hidden the wax figurine of the Kaiser? I've got no bloody idea what you did with your wax figurine, and I don't care. You are the prisoner. That's right, and as such, I expect some answers out of you. Now, where did you put my stash of freeze-dried food? We, ate it. You ate it? It was quite good. I'm sure it was. I'll have you know that was freeze-dried food from the freeze-dry guy. That food rehydrates faster, stores longer, is nutritionally superior to, and tastes better than any other long-term storage food available. Now, let me out of here. If you could get us some more, perhaps we could negotiate. Yeah, perhaps I'll just confiscate your keys, Klaus, and let myself out the front door. But wait. I'm busy. Get your own supply of delicious long-term storable food by dialing 866-404-3663 or visit freezedryguy.com.
The Micro Effect Broadcasting Network.
Check this. Right now.
The Micro Effect.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Whole Agenda Radio Show. I'm your host, Rob Pepino, and we are talking with Dr. Eric Perl of The Reconnection. He's the founder. And we were just getting into how The Reconnection has touched him through his patients and how the network of people have made him realize that there was a lot more to this was going on than you actually really realized. Eric, please continue where we were left off.
Well, let's talk about a few things first. This form of healing called reconnective healing is not an energy healing technique. It's something that the researchers feel is here on the planet for the very first time. It is such a broad, comprehensive bandwidth of healing frequencies, light, and information that the scientists have never seen anything like it here. It turns the laws of physics upside down and inside out. It's not like Reiki, Jirage, and Qin Qigong, Alpha, Beta, Delta. It's not about pulling up imaginary zippers or having to use symbols or protecting yourself or shaking off negative energy. It's something that accomplishes much more. The healings are fairly instantaneous, and they tend to last for the person's lifetime. Very different than with energy healing. And the way the researchers explained when they said to me, they think that this is here for the very first time, because I said, gee, that's a really bold statement. How can you say something like this? They said, well, it really makes perfect sense if we just allow ourselves to understand two basic concepts. Concept A is that we are four-dimensional. We are height, width, depth, and time. And, of course, in quantum physics, what they usually do is they illustrate that as a bubble. They say, just imagine this little bubble and pretend that that's our little limited playground or area of existence, huge, vast, endless, multidimensional universe. The wall or the cell of the bubble has been comprised or is comprised of height, width, depth, and time. And the interior of the bubble, everything inside, is and has been energy. Energy has been everything here. Our energy healing techniques have been different subsets or portions of this energy that we would access through different methods and techniques. But here comes part two. Time is moving faster. Time is moving faster in all directions at once. So what time is actually doing is opening up and expanding, which means that our bubble is expanding larger and larger to encompass more of what has always existed in the universe, however, hasn't been here before in our existence of height, width, depth, and time. So although it's timeless, for us here it's new. Now, this can tend to royally piss off a lot of the New Age community because they want everything to be old so that they can claim previous knowledge of it, familiarity. You know, I remember this from my past life when I was Cleopatra for the 33rd time, both in Atlantis and Lemuria, when I was able to bilocate because I was the only Cleopatra that could do so. You know, a lot of these things feed the ego, but guess what? Sometimes something is just new. And isn't that wonderful? Because we are also here for what's new. And so as we access this new level of healing, something seems to change. It's the expansion of time that is allowing this new healing to be here. And it is this new healing that's here that's allowing us to gear up and be ready for this expanded time and existence that we're stepping into the next jump of, which many people feel has to do with 2012. Now, 2012 is not the first leap, and it won't be the last leap. We're not suddenly going to pull up our bed sheets on December 21st, 2012 at 11:11 a.m. and scream because we're suddenly invisible. You might scream for another reason, but you know what? That'll be a different program, won't it? What's actually, we probably won't even notice the change for 3 years, 12 years, a couple dozen years, and then we'll look back and we'll go, wow, look at this huge jump in consciousness humanity has gone through during that period of time. But first, the first phrase of the 6 phrases that came through was, we're here to tell you to continue doing what you are doing. Now, continue is not a word of stagnation. It doesn't mean do the same old thing. To continue something is to continue it onward, to continue it forward, a continuation, or leading into, shall we say, a continuum. What was the second phrase? The second phrase was, what you were doing is bringing light and information onto the planet. Now, where do we usually hear the terms light and information together? Not very often, to tell you the truth. Usually, you only hear those terms when you're speaking about the photon, the tiniest bundle in classic quantum physics, which sounds like an oxymoron, but it's not. The tiniest bundle of energy, light, and information that we know of. But this phrase said what you're doing is bringing light and information, not energy, light, and information. Why did it not say energy? Because if you remember the description we just gave of our tiny little bubble of existence, we've been in the energy. The energy has always been here. It was already here. We are continuing it beyond energy into light and information. As we move from there, the third and fourth phrases were what you're doing is reconnecting strings. What you're doing is reconnecting strands. Now, I knew that strands meant strands of DNA. I knew that from the story that I just told you about, when I went to the French woman and she had me visualize the sun, and I said, I have 3 strands and there are 12 strands of DNA. Now, my mouth never said anything that I didn't know of before, so I'm choosing to believe me. Can I prove it? No. Does it change it? No. Strings, I thought strings and strands were the same thing. I thought some intelligence decided to reach through the illusion of the fabric of space and time and turn over 50 different living human beings into broadcast systems to speak the same 6 phrases, and it had to communicate with me in English. And there was some concept that was similar to stringy or strandy, and it had to use the best word that we had in English for it. It was years later that I found out about string theory, simultaneous planes of existence, where something is going, you might be having a dinner in one room, and yet at the very same space, something else has been going on 500 years ago, and you don't see them, and they don't see us, and something else might be going on 5,000 years in the future, and we don't see them, and maybe they do see us, because who was it who turned these people into living, speaking radios or something? It was someone, somewhere, who felt this information was important enough that it needed to be recognized, acknowledged, spoken of. And if they didn't do it, well, a lot of people's lives wouldn't have been changed. I mean, right now the book, The Reconnection, is in 36 languages. In full weekend seminars, I've trained about 75,000 people how to do this work, and we've reached millions. Something is important enough that it's changing our consciousness, and it has to do with our evolution.
That's it. That's incredible. I was going to ask you a question as you were going back a little further here. You were talking about information and light. Do you think that the information is traveling on the light? This new light, this new frequency that's coming into our existence.
This is how we understand things today, the way you're talking about them, because we're limited in the way we understand science. Yet, energy, light, and information are of the same thing, and they are different. Just like red, blue, and yellow are different, and yet they're also all comprised of light. They're different, but they're part of the color spectrum. And then there's the overlap of them, greens and purples.
Okay, I understand what you're saying. I also, trying to understand, because I know what frequency is, I know what energy is, I know what light is. Now, we are coming into a new frequency right now. I've been feeling this for a better part of a year now. My body has been experiencing this frequency shift. Call it whatever you will, but I have been experiencing it, and I find it quite extraordinary. And I've had some extraordinary experiences with this last year, which I've never had.
Can you explain that a little bit?
Well, for instance, my body within the last year, I'm experiencing a frequency shift or a change. My body feels like, this is in and out, Eric, like it's tingling throughout the day, then it will stop, then it will restart. My senses feel heightened, more aware than I ever have been. I'll tell you an experience with one of my animals, my cat. I was sleeping one night, and I went to bed. Well, I usually get up around 6:30. Now, I know when my cats are in my room. My one cat, Bella, she jumps on the bed. I can hear her. Now, I'm half asleep and half awake. This is happening. And I know when she's on the bed because I can feel her walk, but I'm still half asleep and half awake. The next thing I hear, like you are talking to me right now, I hear, "It is time for you to get up now." In a stern voice, not kind, stern. I open my eyes, and there's my cat staring at me right in the face. And that was her telling me to get up. Now, this had never happened. That was quite the experience.
And that is us experiencing simultaneous planes of existence and a more multidimensional existence. And this is what we are here to develop. See, everyone talks about reconnective healing as if what's so wonderful and important about it is that it's all these great healings where people walk again and they see again and all these wonderful things. Healing is so very much more than that. Healing is about our evolution. I mean, think of it. Think of those phrases I just told you. What you're doing is reconnecting strings. What you're doing is reconnecting strands. How does a computer work? You have you've got a piece of computer hardware. It doesn't do anything by itself until you put a software program into it. Once you run the software program, then you get information from the computer, and you get information from that internet field out there somewhere. Upgrade the software, better information from within the computer, and better access to that internet field out there somewhere. what if our brains are our hardware? What if our DNA is our software? And what if what we are doing that allows for these instantaneous healings that tend to be lifelong to take place is really reconnecting strands? Then what we are doing is giving ourselves a human software upgrade that's allowing better access from within the brain, better access of the multidimensional field out there, our multidimensional existence. In other words, string theory, reconnecting strings. And since we go where our attention is, we are becoming more multidimensional in that very process. In other words, I don't think that the reconnection came here just about the physical healings, the way we view them. It showed up in the form of these physical, mental, emotional, spiritual healings because that's what the world was ready to accept as the next level beyond what it was already accepting. And just because we weren't yet ready then to know enough to come running, if we had seen a sign hung out that said, come get your DNA reconnected here.
Wow, that's an incredible way to look at it. All I know is that there is a frequency shift happening, and this has happened to me. And it's more than obvious that this gift that you were taught and now you're teaching to others is helping to open the frequency range that people are now understanding that is coming into light right now, I guess is maybe a good way of looking at it. It's so hard to understand how do I want to put this? It's like you just discovered something new and you don't know what it is because we know, like when we see a car, we build a car, it's a car. But if somebody builds let's say a light ship, and no one's ever seen one, they're not going to know what it is until it's explained to them, this is a light ship, this is what it does. And I think that's kind of what the reconnective healing, the frequency and light and connecting the strands probably is.
It is. And it's about our except we don't need the ship. You see, we don't need the ship. We are the receivers. We are the transmitters. We are the transducers. We are here exchanging this information. For instance, I told you about Fred was that first patient who had the voice come through him, right?
Yes.
And Fred had this voice come through him since he was a child. And then there was a 3-month period of time when Fred was seeing me. He was about 45 years old, and 50 of my other patients had this voice come through them. I mean, 50 of them. And none of them had ever had a voice come through them again, and then it stopped. Well, it didn't stop coming through Fred. And I would ask Fred periodically, although he was often reluctant and didn't always like to do this, if I could speak with that voice. And I fortunately had the presence of mind to record those. Now, again, I don't know that we were or weren't ready for this information at the time, but I've sat on this since the 90s, and it's what I'm putting into the new book that I'm working on right now. Now, I've not written another book since this first one. People kept asking me when I was going to write another one, and I told them quite honestly when I recovered from writing the first one. Then after saying that for a while, they started to say, when are you going to write another one? And I said, when I have something else to say. Meanwhile, read this one at least 3 times. You'll still never get it all. Even I discover new things when I look at it. But now it's time. And if you want, if you'd like to listen to a little bit of the information from it that I'm putting into it, I'll share some parts of it with you if you want.
Dr. Perl, there?
Yes, I'm here. Do you hear me?
I'm sorry. I got disconnected temporarily. I apologize for that.
Oh, all right. Well, where did you leave off?
I was just listening to you. You were talking about writing another book. People were asking you about writing another book. You say, well, when the time comes, I'll write another book. Yet, most people still having a hard time understanding the book you've written because you have to read it once, twice, 3 times. I'm still working on the first time, by the way.
Yeah, it's not having a hard time reading it. I mean, you seem to understand it quite simply, quite easily. And yet when you read it a second time, you discover everything you didn't catch the first time. And then when you read it a third time, you discover what you didn't get the first 2 times. So there's so much more in it. But I'm now writing a second book where I'm sharing some of the information that came through that I've kept quiet for a long time. And I'm ready to put it into this book. And I said, if you'd like, I'll share an excerpt or 2 from it with you.
Oh, I would absolutely love that.
Okay. Here we go. Your heart is coming here to understand a deeper sense of your truth. You need to recognize your heart is in a space that is allowing you to illustrate your greater being. Your feelings now are being carried through on a different plane. Your energy exists in this sphere of influence that is central to your understanding of a different sphere of influence. You're allowed to carry yourself in this plane. You will find that there is a greater facility for recognizing the needs of those you come into contact with. You mustn't frustrate yourself by allowing energies that are discordant to your being. Feel your life, suffice it to say, carry itself in a varied, multidimensional direction. Your feelings of inadequacy seem to stem from a deeper sense of worth, and you need to allow yourself to fulfill your expectation and give yourself license to carry this forward. There's a lot that needs to be said in various ways. We understand ourselves in a limited fashion, and we need to carry this understanding as a life process. It is the unveiling of a multifaceted force within our life. We need to peel away the exterior so that that internal being shines through to those we come into contact with. This eternal soul that resides within our framework is being covered up in many ways by our fears and apprehensions. And in this work, this is what we need to do, to unveil our soul. It is not a simple process. And this stripping away of ego is an eternal process. The selflessness that must shine through the being that can reach in without interference. Once that pure force shines through, without it being refracted by various mindsets, it will flow in a more direct manner. Once you allow your soul, that egoless purity, to come through, that is almost a common denominator in that it has the ability to automatically fuse with the frequency of the person you're coming into contact with. So your job in this process is to strip away the defense, strip away the mind, strip away the control mechanisms that you have in this plane. Let them go. Let them be a part of an exterior that has nothing to do with you. And present that soul in the room. It will automatically do the work. That energy is the common universal language of the cosmos. It is understood immediately, and it is felt intrinsically.
Well, that's extremely deep and very touching to me, especially because I have been letting go of my ego for such a long time, Eric. I mean, if I sat here and told you about my life from when I was 20 years old to where I am now, you'd understand, but we don't have that kind of time. But I have learned, and really this is the learning process has really been within the last, I'm going to say, the last good 5 to 7 years of stripping my ego away for just the purity of knowledge, understanding, people of like minds, higher consciousness, the universal language of the spirituality of the soul to be enlightened and put, all those childish things away, which yourself and myself and so many other people have been born into this world because we have been bombarded with all this nonsense of what to wear, how to eat, how to look, how to speak, how to act. It is all a facade that's been created by an egotistical world, and it makes it very difficult for a lot of people who haven't even looked at haven't really looked through their soul. In other words, they work through their shell, not ever realizing who they are. And it's such a shame because I am so awake to this, that when I encounter people and I talk to them, and it's very difficult to talk to people on this level like you are talking to me, Eric.
But you know what?
On a level of sincerity and consciousness and truth.
But you see, we bring this limited perspective into the way we view the healing world as well, where we have to wear certain healing colors. We think that we need certain necklaces and pendants to make us more. We think we need other necklaces and pendants to protect ourselves, that we live in fear, lack, and limitation in the healing world, and the healing world is not comprised of fear, lack, and limitation, or the illusion of separation or darkness. The world of healing resides in love, oneness, unity, prosperity, light, and abundance. And what we seem to overlook quite often is that we cannot facilitate a gift that we are unwilling to accept or receive ourselves. We cannot stand in fear, protecting ourselves in a white flame, a purple flame, a gold flame, shaking off negative energy, spraying ourselves down with alcohol, pretending to pull up imaginary zippers to protect us, and facilitate healings that reside in love. We cannot stand in lack and limitation, trying to add things to us to make ourselves more, and facilitate healings that reside in abundance. We can't stand in a poverty consciousness and facilitate abundance. We can't stand in control, trying to direct 70% of the energies up and 30% of them down, and this goes in a clockwise direction, that goes in a counterclockwise direction, and facilitate healings that are the key for us stepping into the freedom of the knowing that the perfect intelligence of the universe knows exactly what to do and in what way. So we carry that same limitation that you see in the non-healing metaphysical world into the metaphysical world, because we are not clear conduits. We are filters, and we are learning here how to clear the filters so that we can bring through what truly is.
Absolutely. Eric, please stick with us. This has been an incredible conversation. We're coming up with the last half hour of the show, and I want to ask you some other questions, because this is really incredible. Everybody, this is the Whole Agenda Radio Show, and I'm your host, Robert Bino, and you are listening to Dr. Eric Perl of The Reconnection, the founder, who has been blessed with the gateway of understanding how true healing works, and it's not a miracle. It's something that he can teach you over a weekend, and it's quite incredible. And he has taught over 75,000 people at this point how to help themselves and others. So everybody, stick with us. This is the Whole Agenda. We'll be right back after this break.
Regardless of the dollar price involved, 1 ounce of gold would purchase a good quality man's suit at the conclusion of the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, the presidency of Franklin Roosevelt, and today. You may not be in the market for a new suit, but you don't know what the future may bring. And gold is the one financial constant the world has ever known. It can always provide you with your basic needs. Whether you're looking for junk silver, old silver dollar rolls, gold bullion, or fractional tradable gold pieces, Kettle Moraine is your full-service representative with over 50 years of knowledge and personal experience. Visit FlyingEagleGold.com or call us at 623-327-1778 today for competitive prices on all your gold or silver needs. If you're looking for real financial insurance, call Kettle Moraine today at 623-327-1778. That's Kettle Moraine, 623-327-1778.
Hi, I'm Ronnie McMullen, spokesman for Life Change Tea. I want to share my enthusiasm for Life Change Tea because this product really works. I have spent many hours listening to hundreds of testimonies from people like you having their health be transformed because of this amazing product. When your mind makes the decision for a health change, Life Change Tea will help you to achieve your health goal. Reduce your weight, diminish bad bacteria, receive more energy, cleanse your skin, eliminate toxins, give health and energy to your vital organs. If you want to make a change in your health plan, call now. Call right now. 928-308-0408. Again, 928-308-0408. Or you can log on to the website at getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Make up your mind and choose the right path. That's getthetea.com.
Rise and answer my question. Oh, crap. Yeah, it's a little dark in here, ain't it, Clink, now that you've busted the light? Where are you? Right in front of you. Yes. Now, where have you hidden the wax figurine of the Kaiser? I've got no bloody idea what you did with your wax figurine, and I don't care. You are the prisoner. That's right, and as such, I expect some answers out of you. Now, where did you put my stash of freeze-dried food? We, ate it. You ate it? It was quite good. I'm sure it was. I'll have you know that was freeze-dried food from the freeze-dry guy. That food rehydrates faster, stores longer, is nutritionally superior to, and tastes better than any other long-term storage food available. Now, let me out of here. If you could get us some more, perhaps we could negotiate. Yeah, perhaps I'll just confiscate your keys, Klaus, and let myself out the front door. But wait. I'm busy. Get your own supply of delicious long-term storable food by dialing 866-404-3663 or visit freezedryguy.com.
The Micro Effect Broadcasting Network.
Check this. Right now.
The Micro Effect.
And welcome back, everyone. This is the Whole Agenda Radio Show. I'm your host, Robert Pepino, and we have Dr. Eric Perl with us, and this is the last half hour of the show. And I just want to give the number out there for anybody who'd like to call in and ask Dr. Perl any question. The number is 1-888-747-1968. Hey, Dr. Perl,
well, you know what? Actually, if you can for a second, before anyone calls in, let's make it clear, Robert, that if you are calling in, please make sure that your question is a question that everyone can benefit from. Don't call in saying, please, I have this health problem or my aunt has that health problem. What can I do for it? Because that becomes very singular and personal to you. And right now we're talking about accessing expanded levels of healing, and we want to stay on that. As a matter of fact, Robert, if I may, what I'd love to do is tell the listeners what they can anticipate at a seminar so they know whether or not this is something for them.
Absolutely. Please go right ahead.
So what's happening is I'm giving, there will be 3 more seminars, 2 of which I'm teaching in North America this year. I'm teaching in Miami, December 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, and I'm teaching in Los Angeles this weekend coming, this Friday night. I'm giving a presentation, and then the healing seminar is all day Sunday and Monday. And what happens is on Friday night, there'll be a 3-hour presentation that I give that talks about the history of this work, the theory of the work, the research showing us how it's changing our DNA and our blood levels, and philosophy. Then we'll bring up some volunteers from the audience so you can see and witness some live demonstrations of the healings, maybe on yourself or someone you might know. And we give everyone an opportunity for you to feel it in your hands. However, Sunday and Monday, when we teach the full seminar so that you, too, can learn how to do this extraordinary work, it's a serious, real, working seminar. So I'm going to warn you right now, don't come, and I mean it, don't come if you think we're all going to sit around, hold hands, om, and sing Kumbaya, my Lord, because it truly will not work that way. What happens is we demonstrate a level of the healing from the stage while we're in our seats, and then we all go to massage tables, either in 2s or in 4s, and I walk around to each table along with our international team of teaching assistants, and we show you how to begin to feel this in your hands, to access this spectrum, this new, more comprehensive healing frequency, and as you begin to do that and feel it, you start to see the person on the table respond. You might see their eyes begin to rapidly dart back and forth and back and forth, and then we'll show you how to feel a different sensation, and you'll start to see how their feet move or their fingers move. When you start to recognize that, I'm here, I'm feeling this, and I'm seeing this. When I'm here, I feel that, and I see that. And you start to recognize your distinct role in this healing equation. And we go back to the chairs, talk about what we just did, discuss a little more of the philosophy behind it and the science, and then we go back to the tables to learn more. And by Monday, the 23rd of October, if you're at this seminar, I can pretty much make you 2 promises. A, you will be able to do anything and everything in the way of healing that I can do. B, you will be able to do anything and everything in the way of healing that any human being anywhere on this planet can do, whether they've created or mastered techniques, whether they were raised by monks in a cave in a mountaintop in Tibet and fed grains of seed, each one flown in the beak of an individually chocolate-colored bird, or whether they moved to a church in Brazil and changed their perfectly good God-given, parent-given last name to of God. It doesn't matter the story. What matters is our willingness to transcend the story, because the gift of reconnective healing is that it allows us to completely transcend our modalities, to transcend our techniques, and access something far more comprehensive with far greater ease, to bring about healings that are fairly instantaneous and tend to be fairly lifelong. The challenge is whether or not we're willing to transcend our own techniques. In other words, the gift is that this allows us to completely demystify the healing process, and the challenge is whether or not we're willing to allow the healing process, whether the ego is willing to allow the healing process to be demystified. And if we're not willing to transcend our techniques, to bring about greater healings for people, we need to ask ourselves why. And if we're not willing to demystify the healing process and allow it to become clear and transparent for everyone involved, we need to ask ourselves why. And if we're not willing to ask ourselves why, then the question we need to ask ourselves is why we're not willing to ask ourselves why, because it is within that question that lies the key to our true evolved mastery.
Wow, that's really incredible. Erica, one of the things I wanted to ask you was, what has been one of your best experiences in teaching this to students, and who would you say probably has performed the best, or has there been one single individual who really impressed you, or was there an overall group that really just shined when you were teaching the reconnective healing?
You know, if it worked just that way, then I might not even do it. The thing is that everyone seems to be able to master this work. This is the shock, because I tell you, I didn't want to teach it for a long time because I was afraid that there'd be people who couldn't do it. Again, there is fear, once again. Fear crops up everywhere, and we have to learn to not make our choices from the fear, but to make them from love. And what I discovered is that everyone, every single person at every seminar so far has been able to learn to facilitate and do this work. Now, I'm not saying there might not be the first person who can't, but everyone has. So, no, I wouldn't say that there's any one person who does it better than anyone else, as long as we are willing to transcend the techniques and move beyond the fear-based limitations and rituals. In other words, if you're looking to find a reconnective healing practitioner in your area, you can definitely go on to the website, thereconnection.com, www.thereconnection.com, and you can look for the directory of practitioners, but don't just go to someone who happened to place themselves on the directory of practitioners. Google them up. Check their website. If they have not transcended and risen above the techniques, if they're still doing techniques at the same time, they will do their techniques better than other people who do those techniques, but they will not be able to bring through the full level of reconnective healing as well as those people who have transcended ego and the fear and the limitation and the control of the technique itself.
Okay, well, that's very well put and very well understood. Well, Eric, are you going to be in Phoenix anytime soon?
I don't have Phoenix on the plan right now. I might look at doing it in 2012, but I don't have my 2012 schedule laid out yet to be able to tell you. I know that the one other seminar that we're going to be doing besides the Miami and the Los Angeles seminars is going to be, where did it go? Oh, I don't see it right now. It's going to be, come here, it's coming, it's almost in front of me, and there it went. I don't have it. It's going to be in Canada. I can't tell you where it's going to be because I can't find it.
Oh, that's okay.
But if I do find it, I will. Oh, it'll be in Vancouver. November 12 and 13, it'll be in Vancouver. But the Miami seminar, the weekend of December 2nd, and the Los Angeles seminar, this weekend coming up, will be simultaneously translated into Spanish to make it more readily available for everyone. As a matter of fact, on Saturday, October 22nd, we're holding a mastery conference here with just a one-day conference where we're bringing in Dr. Joe Dispenza, who's written The Art of Changing Your Mind, Gary Zukov, who's written Dancing Woolly Masters and the Seat of the Soul, Lynn McTaggart, who's written The Field and The Bond, and Lee Carroll, who's the author of the Cryon books.
That's absolutely fantastic. I really want to attend one of the reconnection classes. Unfortunately for me, living in Phoenix, because I do a radio show 5 nights a week, and the weekends are very, very difficult for me at this point to really go anywhere. That's why I asked. I was hoping you'd be coming to Phoenix soon, but
now,
I guess I can look forward to it in 2012.
Well, look at this. How are you and I doing this interview right now? You're there, and I'm on the phone. So that would mean that you could also do the interview through phone-in, through your studio.
It's true.
That is true, isn't it? And now, if you give me another moment, I'll solve world peace.
Right. Speaking of world peace, Eric, we got about 10 minutes here. With everything that's going on, we have this massive economic crisis. People, and you are 100% right. Everybody has been taught to live through a fear basis. That's fact. Okay? From the time we are brought into this world to the time we are brought out, governments around the world and who knows who else, terrorism and violence and economic collapse, and everybody has been taught to live in fear. And I shed that fear, Eric. I just shed it and I let it go. And that's one of the reasons I'm doing this program, to enlighten people, to say there's no need to be afraid because what you've been told is an illusion. What is your perspective on all this fear-based mongering from governments and the economic collapse? Yeah, okay, fine. The economy collapses. It's not the end of the world. That's what people don't realize. We are smarter than that.
It's the end of the world for the government. It's the end of the world for the government because they don't know what to do then, and they might lose their power or position. For us, we'll all be fine.
Exactly, and we will be fine. But so many people put so much value on, the fear factor of, okay, the economy collapses, and what am I going to do for money, and how am I going to survive, and how am I going to live? And I say that the human will, the human spirit, the human soul transcends all that because we always find a way to transition to the next change. And this is what I'm looking forward to, is the change, the real change.
Right. We live in, how can we say it? We're always all right in the present moment. Fear is in the future where we never are. Regret is of the past, fear is of the future, but we're always fine in the present moment. So when you're ready to be in a not present moment, let me know.
That is very, very, very well put. And, the whole fear basis on 2012 and, the Earth is going to just annihilate itself. I mean, that's, yes, Earth changes are happening, and this is a cyclical process of change that is happening. It's more than evident. But, humanity survives through these things. And, again, that's another fear-based system that everybody's so attached to it. I don't understand it sometimes, Eric, people want to scare the daylights out of themselves, yet when they have to face the real challenges, they're not willing to do it. That's the thing I don't get.
Because they're afraid.
Exactly. But think about it. People go watch these frightening movies, scary movies, and they want to have the daylight scared out of them. But when it comes to the reality of, okay, well, we might be facing this, then they just stick their head in the sand and they go, I don't want to deal with it. It's the subconscious mind that they've been bought into all this nonsense that, if you don't, do this is going to happen. Which is just a bunch of craziness. It's a bunch of, it's just fear-based nonsense. I was
going to say, let me read you another part of this book that, again, it's a little deep, it's a little abstract, but I think it'll approach a little bit of what you're saying.
Wonderful.
Here we go. Get a hold of your life as if it is approaching. It is coming. It's all a cycle that we are accomplishing those goals we have set for us. We want you to realize the potential here for you. We are coming in an energy source that will magnify the amplitude of your conveyance of information. We need you to allow our hearts to enter your being. We want you to characterize this communication from your essence and its purpose here. We have you here to be our focal point in time. You are here now releasing that of the ages. Only feel your heart, for it will lead you into the areas you need to possess that force. You are here now to understand a new type of energy to come. It is going to carry you through a great period of energy significance. It is in your area of influence that will embark you on a different plateau of communication. It is coming to you through a force that has been regulated through the ages. It is here now to involve those who have a purpose to obtain world harmony in this time. It is the score that you will conduct. Your life is of great purpose now, and you will be relieved of other burdens to accomplish this. We know you have questions of significance, but your life is here to answer questions of greater areas of influence. Know that, and fear not what is to come. It is rapidly descending upon you. You are part of a greater plan. It is going to unveil itself in the immediate future. It is of great urgency. Do not fear the power. It is a source of greatness. It is here for ages and will always be. It is being revealed because it is necessary at this time. Your questions are in harmony of our plan. His spirit is in the atmosphere. You are here now to receive it. It will come to you mightily. Your energy is being modally known to a higher harmony, and you will feel this in your work because it will involve you in a different way. Your spirit will be involved in a different way, and it will have a much greater result with who you reach to. You will see it in a more concrete form, and that will help you. It will make your conviction even more heartfelt.
Wow. That's pretty much says it all right there, Eric. It says open yourself up to change, and you will understand what it means to change and to come in to the understanding of this new era that we are truly going into, this transcension into this new light, this new frequency, this new love, this new thought process. Wow. You know, I welcome it with open arms, and I'm pretty sure that's what I have been feeling.
It's also, you know, when we talk about fear, this is just let me do a little bit more here, if we're all right for this. It's an acceptance and an appreciation of that vital force that exists now, that is here in this second, that you have been endowed with an energy that is manifest in flesh and bone and that breathes and lives. It's not taking for granted the mechanism, but rejoicing and celebrating it. That's the true guarantee of coming to terms with some sort of enlightenment in this plane, that in every single moment that we experience, there is incredible joy and celebration to be appreciated in every moment, not just some. We sort of characterize what we consider great and happy moments and sad moments. We compartmentalize them as various desirable experiences, undesirable experiences. Yet there are no undesirable experiences if you open your soul to them, because in every experience there is a germ of incredible wisdom if it is harvested, if it is recognized. We toss away what we consider useless material, not looking deeper into it, not recognizing the incredible knowledge that comes with every experience. We're judgmental, and that comes from the ego. It all depends on where we shine our telescope.
Wow, that's incredible. It really, really is. It's like this was almost all channeled through you as you're speaking these words, Eric. Quite incredible.
Well, not through me, but quite channeled. But I'm glad I selected these things in advance. I didn't know where the conversation would go, and I thought these would be some nice ones to share.
Well, very poignant and very to the fact and very enlightening. Eric, I want to really thank you so much for being on this program. I've really learned a lot, and I truly look forward to, as soon as I get a chance, to meet you, of course, and to be part of the reconnection. I would truly like to learn this. I think it would benefit me tremendously and everyone around me. I feel I'm an enlightened soul. I also feel like I'm a conduit. This is one of the reasons I do this broadcast, to enable other people to awaken in a time of need right now. We are really in a time of need. So many people are so lost looking for answers, and they just don't know where to turn. And you are one of those great conduits, Eric, and I feel like I've connected with you, really have. It's been a really incredible conversation. I hope we can do this again. And I don't know when your new book is coming out, but when it does, I would truly like to have you back on this broadcast, if at all possible.
I would love to do that. Just set it up with Jackie, and we will go ahead.
Well, that sounds absolutely fantastic. And, Eric, please go ahead and let everybody know where you're going to be again, so in case somebody missed it.
Sure. Well, first of all, if you want to check out the schedule internationally, you can go on to www.thereconnection.com. The book is called The Reconnection, Heal Others, Heal Yourself. This Friday, Sunday, and Monday, I'm teaching a seminar here in Los Angeles at the Los Angeles Universal Studio Hilton. And in Miami, December 2nd through 4th, I'll be teaching the seminar there. And one of my teachers will be teaching the seminar in Vancouver, November 12 and 13. So those are the last three in North America. Otherwise, you'll have to join us in South America or Europe.
Okay. And whenever you get to Phoenix, I hope soon, I will definitely be here. And if I do ever get a chance to break away for a weekend and you are somewhere close by, expect me, because I will be.
I'll tell you what, Robert. Let me entice you and leave you with something to think about. If you decide that you want to come to this seminar here in Los Angeles, and you decide to be brave enough to find a way to phone in your TV show for that, your radio show for that weekend, then you can come to this Los Angeles seminar as my guest, and you can let all your listeners know whether it's a crock or whether it's something real and substantial that they should know about and take part in.
For sure, I know it's not a crock, Eric. That I know. Bottom line, period.
Okay.
Let me see what I can do. Eric, I want to thank you once again. I bless you, and I send you light and love, and I wish you well. And like I said, if I can make it, I will absolutely do there. Take care of yourself, and you have an absolutely wonderful week.
Thank you. I appreciate doing the show, and we'll talk soon.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Eric. Bye-bye. And everybody, that was Dr. Eric Perl of The Reconnection. And I suggest please go to www.reconnection.com, where you can get detailed information on Dr. Perl's work and all the people he has worked with that are teachers now, and as he expands the teaching knowledge to the rest of the world. And we are going through a transition, yes. It is a physical transition, but we will all survive it.
I'm Ronnie McMullen, spokesman for Life Change Tea. I want to share my enthusiasm for Life Change Tea because this product really works. I have spent many hours listening to hundreds of testimonies from people like you having their health be transformed because of this amazing product. When your mind makes the decision for a health change, Life Change Tea will help you to achieve your health goal. Reduce your weight, diminish bad bacteria, receive more energy, cleanse your skin.